So DRE Panthers, of course, again, this is Mr. Coughlin, and I'm in my art studio. As you know, I'm your art teacher. Thank you for joining me once again for the following lessons. It's yet another exciting day for me because of the fact that the subject is here once again, and I'm looking forward to drawing the second step in the portrait of the subject. Before we proceed, however, I would like to direct your attention to one matter. There is a video just prior to this video that you should have watched by now, and it is in reference to this set of information where you will see how you should be submitting your single submission of your portrait drawing. So prior to watching this video, perhaps you should be watching the video with me showing you these directions about how to submit a single video with 4 different photos. If you need help understanding this, please watch the prior video or the video here posted on Edmodo with your parents, and you will see how to submit that. I will talk about these directions later on in a video in the future. In the previous video, the video before that, we worked on this particular one, which is in reference to this one, which is the initial composition. Today, we are going to get into something a little bit more exciting where we start to draw the portrait facial features of the subject matter. In this case, the subject is here. So, let me set this down and we'll begin. Before I begin, I wanted to show you how sometimes I sharpen my pencil. If you can come a little bit closer here. This is just simply a piece of sandpaper, and the way I sharpen my pencil is just like this. Okay? And it provides a nice, easy way to sharpen my pencil. There we go. All right. You may have come to notice that our model wears glasses, and well, that's fine. A lot of people wear glasses. A lot of people wear jewelry and necklaces and so forth. If that's the case with the subject that you're drawing, here's what you need to do. If it's the case, by the way, that your subject wears glasses, you will kindly need to request that you need to see the model's facial feature, their eyes, and what you do is when the model removes the subject removes their glasses, then you draw the eyes and the eyebrows in, and later on when you go to draw, you draw right over the top of your drawing that you made of the eyes and the eyebrows. You draw the glasses right over the top of those things. So it's the easiest, most simplest way to do that. So I'm going to ask, by the way, or request that the subject stand up just for the purposes of this video, because you're probably not filming yours, but I am trying to, of course, instruct you how to do this, and I'm going to ask the subject to stand a little bit closer so the camera can see both the subject and me drawing at one time. So would you mind standing up at all? Thank you. Okay, so here's the model, the subject, and as you see, I've already got the line of symmetry, the position of his eyes in here. Remember we spoke about this the other day? The line of symmetry, the position of where his eyes go, the bottom of his nose is right in here in the bottom of his mouth. That is in the previous video. We should have all that. Now here's where I like to start. You can start where you like, but here's where I like to start. I like to start with the hair, because the hair essentially frames the face. So would you mind looking at me, subject? So I notice here, let's come in nice and close to the, nice and close to the drawing. The model, as I mentioned in the previous video, has nice full hair. And I made some previous marks to show how this goes in. But now I'm going to sketch them in a little more elegantly. Okay, this is generally how the model's hair looks. Okay, in a general way. Remember, this is the top of his head. This is not the top of his hair. This is top of his head under his hair that I will be erasing later on. So the model's hair, subject, I keep saying that, the subject hair goes in something like this, and down in the back, and then the top of his ear, if you notice, is just about level with the top of his eye. So I know that the ear is going to come somewhere in here. Remember, I'm just sketching now. And the other ear is just a little bit above the eye line here. Okay. Can you turn this way just a little bit more? Thank you. And then I see the models. This part of his hair that I'm drawing right here. This point right here is this point that I'm drawing in here. And he has hair that generally looks like this on this side. This is the cut side of his hair. This is the hair side of his head where he folds his hair over. And his sideburns, these are called sideburns. They come down this way. And as I mentioned, his ear is here. Now, if you can imagine, let me see if I can find my eraser here real quick. If you can imagine, that was my sketchbook that fell, that his skull is no longer being able to be seen here. You'll see that in a general way, his hair is starting to frame his face. And that's nice because that gives you a reference point of where to start. Now I'm going to need to ask the model to remove his glasses so I can see his eyes. And he obliged, he did that. And let's notice that the model's eyebrows are just, of course, right above the center line of the pupil of his eyes. And they generally go in this form. Okay? This form. Just watch me nice and close in here if you can. This is just, remember, I'm just sketching this in. And his eyebrows go out like this. And over. And to this way. Okay? So, I made him little smudges here. You might want to clean them up. Remember, this was just a general thought of where his eyes might go. Now, the first thing I want to do is look at the corner of his eye. The corner of his eye is going to be about right here. It's going to come down this way and come out and come down here. It kind of looks like a teardrop sideways or an American football, something like that. This might not be exactly in the position where I want it so far, but it's going to be close enough. If you were one of those students who I drew last year in art class, you would notice that I did the same thing with you. So here's where his eyes go, more or less. Remember now, I'm just sketching. This is not the finished work. This is the bottom of his eyes. And let me draw in his pupils. He seems to be looking more or less straight forward, so I'll draw in his pupils here straight forward. Looking straight forward. There's one. And there's the other. Okay, that's just about where they're going to be. Now, here's an interesting thing. The reason I told you in one prior video that you need to have a light source on one side is, notice right down this side of the model's eyes there is a shadow. What I'm going to be doing to draw the nose is kind of like sketching in where the shadow goes here. Notice that it goes right down here from the eyebrow. So I'm going to sketch that in. It almost follows the line of symmetry by chance here. And then, remember, this is the bottom of his nose, his nostril in here, and then the other nostril. We're almost finished for today. The other nostril. These are some of the smudge marks that happen to occur because my hand was touching this, so I'm just going to erase those so you can get a clearer picture of what I'm doing. And then the side of his nostrils. And then all I have left to do is to draw in his mouth. I'm going to sharpen my pencil a little bit more to get that. Okay. And then here's what you want to do. Remember, this is not necessarily the middle of his lips, because nobody is perfectly symmetrical like a robot or an anime or some cartoon character. People's faces are different. This is just a general guide to where things can go. Okay? So, with that being said, let me look at the model's mouth. You'll notice this little like U shape under his nose here. It goes in here and comes out this way. And he's not necessarily smiling, nor is he frowning. He just has a general look on his face. And then the bottom of his lips come over here like this. Okay, and then I could perhaps draw something relative to what I'm doing right now, right in here. And there's going to be one or two more things that I'm going to do, then we're going to stop. Let's notice that the model's ears on the right hand side, they go out a little bit like this. And then, look to me please. And then his jawline is a little squarer because he's a male. So it's a little squarer, and his chin is like this. You're going to notice that it's going to start to look like the model a little bit more as I pitch in here. Okay, we're almost done for the day. In the next video, you're going to see me filling in some of this stuff. And lastly, I'm going to just make sure I have the proper detail in his t-shirt, or excuse me, in his shirt, as I had before, because I had this sloping down, but notice that he has a little bit squarer shoulders here than I have here. So I'm going to square up his shoulders a little bit, put a little wrinkle in here, then I'm going to drop it down like this, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Here's his collar coming in this way, as I sketched before, the back of his collar, and then I'm going to square up his shoulders down here. And let's just do one last thing so that we know. There's two buttons on his shirt and a pocket. So let's go ahead and button together the top of his shirt right here with this button. Come in nice and close to see where I'm putting his button, please. Here's his button on his shirt, and here's about where the other button goes. Nice and round. And the pocket of his shirt. Oops, let me just get another pencil. The pocket of his shirt goes just about like this. Down like this. Notice it has this shape in here. Okay. And his chest and his arms come in something like this. Okay. And lastly, just going to fix this up a bit so you can see what's going on. Oh, and if you look close enough, the model does wear a chain. I just noticed that myself. So if somebody's wearing a jewelry such as a chain, you want to make sure that that's in there. Okay. All right, so now later in the next video, excuse me by the way for very often turning my back to you, but of course I need to turn my back to look at the canvas, the drawing. But in the next video, I'm going to do some of this work a little bit more, but on the interim between this video and the next video, I'm going to do some work on this sketch. So you're going to see it advance between this position and that position. So far, in my opinion, I think that things are logically correct. You might notice that the model has a little dimple right here, by the way. You want to get that in here. But between now and the next time, as I mentioned, you're going to see some of this work advance. I might have the hair colored in and so forth. In the next video, I'm going to ask the subject to put his glasses back on, and once the subject's glasses are back on, I will start drawing them in. So just do this part. Okay, here's his collar right here. Just do this part. Oh, I just noticed there's a button here. Sorry. Just do this part On this step, this secondary step, this portrait facial features, just do this and stop. Don't go any further than this, and don't worry about submitting your work right now. We'll get to all that later on. So you should have done your portrait composition initially, and then secondly, what we're working on today, the portrait facial features. And once you get to that point, do it, take a photo, keep it on your cell phone or on your computer, and stop. And we'll look forward to working on the third part, the portraiture detail additions that I was speaking about a moment ago, in the next video. Okay, thank you very much. Good luck and good work.